Hi guys, my name is Katie and today we are going to be doing our second lesson of materials. Last week we looked at how materials behaved and we looked at lots of different kinds of materials. So we looked at wood and metal and rubber and plastic and all kinds of different things. So this week we're going to look at some more materials, different ones, and we're going to try and move like those materials. Let's see how they behave as well. So first of all we're going to warm up. So let's come into the space with me. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do the Honeypot because everyone seems to love this one. So can you pick up your Honeypot? Here we go. And I want you to dip your elbow into the honey. So this is full of really sticky honey. In fact, stick both elbows into the Honeypot like that. Good. Pop it down. Now, with your elbows, I'd like you to look around the room that you're in and stick your elbows to something that is red. Can you see anything in your room that is red? Aha! I have a red book down here. So that is my red sticking place. Good. Okay, can you now stick your elbows to something that is soft? Something that's soft, it can be anything. I'm actually going to stick my elbow to my t-shirt because this t-shirt's very soft. I can stick both elbows. What can you find in your room? Something that's soft. Good, okay, and now I'd like you to stick your elbows to something that is crunchy. Crunchy. Now I have a very loud, crunchy beanbag. So I'm going to stick my elbows into my crunchy beanbag here. Great. Good. Pick up your Honeypots. Here we go. Now, are you going to be able to balance? Because I want you to stick your feet into your Honeypot. Here we go. Put it down. Right. Very sticky feet. Now, can you stick your feet to a wall? Any wall you can see in your room. I'm going to go for this one. Here we go. Now you can stick your feet like this. You could go upside down and stick your feet like that. Some people can do 2 feet at once. That's very clever. It's up to you. Good. Come back into the space. Now, can you stick your feet together on the floor? Here we go. Stick your feet together so they can't come apart. Now, if you're with someone else, it'd be lovely to stick your feet with someone else's feet. But if you're on your own, like me, it doesn't matter. You can just stick your feet to your other foot. Okay, and finally, can you stick your feet to something white? Something white. I'm going to bring my foot all up here and stick it to my lampshade. There we go. Can you stick it to something white? Have you found something? Excellent. Unstick. Right, Honeypot time. Pick up your Honeypot. Now this is a big one. You're going to take your Honeypot and tip it all the way down your back. Here we go. Okay. Whoa, that feels very weird. Very sticky and thick. So now we've got super sticky backs. Can you stick your back to a wall? If you can, let's choose a different wall. I'm going to choose this one because it's quite a good slopey shape. So can you stick your back to a wall? That's a good one. Have you found one? Great. Can you now stick your back, if you can unstick, to the floor? That's an easy one. Nice and wide. Stick your back to the floor. Great. Okay, and the last one. Can you stick your back to something in your room that is green? What is green? Aha, my cushion. So I'm going to stick my back to my very soft cushion in my room. What else can you see? It can be tiny, it can be big, it can be something you've never really noticed before in your room. Good, well done. Okay, so we're going to wash off all the honey and put our Honeypots away. And we are going to play the game where I say an action and you are going to have to show me that action. So we're going to start with go. When I say go, we're going to run on the spot. Go. Fast as you can, because we're warming up. Fast as you can. I'm going to say stop. You're going to stop. Good, so we have go. Go, 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 and stop. Great. We've got sit down. Very nice, and stand up. Very nice, and sit down. And stand up. Good. The next two are fidget, which is like you cannot keep still. Okay, so you're constantly moving. See if you can touch lots and lots of different parts of your body. So you've got our shoulders, our back, our hips, our foot, our leg. Okay, fidget, fidget, fidget. Good. The next one is freeze. You cannot move. Find a really interesting position and freeze like you're made of marble or stone. Hold. Fantastic. Good. So I'm going to call out the words. I'm going to mix them up and you are going to do the actions. Here we go. Ready? Go. Stop. Go. Sit down. Sit down. Stand up. Sit down. Stand up. Stand up. Fidget. And freeze. Nice, good freezing. Okay, and go. And sit down. And stand up. Well done. I bet you did a brilliant job of that. This time, I'm going to mix it up. So we are going to play opposites. So whatever I say, you have to do the opposite. Okay? So if I say go, you have to stop. If I say stop, you have to go. If I say sit down, you stand up. If I say stand up, you, that's right, sit down. If I say fidget, you have to freeze. And if I say freeze, you have to fidget. Ready? Okay, listening hats on, listening ears on. Ready? Here we go, and stop. And go, and stop, and go, and sit down, and sit down, and stand up, and fidget, and freeze, and sit down, and stop, and sit down, and stand up, and fidget, and freeze, and sit down. Wow, how did you get on? Good. If you don't feel you're warmed up enough, you can wind me back and you can do that all over again if you like. Okay, this time we are going to do a little phrase. We did this last week as well, so hopefully you can remember it. We are going to start in parallel. So parallel is where your feet are just slightly far apart from each other and they're like on train tracks. So they're not going to go apart and they're not going to come any closer together. They stay exactly that width apart. Wherever you bend, whatever you do, the feet stay there. And what we're going to do is pick out our wet sponges from our buckets on the floor. So we're going to pick them out and we're going to squeeze that water out of them. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. We're then going to pretend we're wearing a big raincoat. I'm going to shrug the raindrops off our shoulders because it's waterproof, so it falls straight off. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. After that, we're going to bend our knees to make sure all the raindrops have been shaken off. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. After that, we're going to put on our big rubber waterproof wellies. Wow. And we're going to do 8 stamps in the mud or puddles. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. We are then going to make 3 shapes on different levels that show real strength. So you can be made of metal, You can be made of wood. You can be made of very, 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 very hard plastic. So think what you'd like to be made of and show me 3 different shapes on 3 different levels. So I'm going to go very low, very strong, to, and my third one's going to be just very tall and very simple. So we have low, middle and high shapes, but very strong, and nothing can move you because you're absolutely solid. Okay, so 8 squeezes, 6, 7, 8, 8 shrugs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 knee bends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 stamps of the feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 3 shapes, super, super solid metal, plastic or wood. 1, 2, 3. Now these shapes can be whatever you like. You don't have to copy me if you don't want to, or you can if you want to. So let's try that with music. So pick out your sponges. Here we go. And squeeze. Here we go. How did you get on? I bet that was brilliant. I love to have seen that. Okay, so let's carry on, and we're going to talk about some of our materials. So let's go and have a look at what I've got on the floor here. Now, I have a bowl of water here, as you can see, and I have a material here. Do you know what this is? This is a sponge. You've probably seen lots of these. And this is a washing up sponge, but we use sponges for lots of things. We can wash ourselves, or we wash cars, or all kinds of things really. And a sponge is really interesting because it has loads and loads and loads of tiny little holes in it. And what we can do is, when you put a sponge in water and squeeze it, you squeeze all the air out and all the water gets sucked in, so it absorbs. And if I squeeze that sponge again, all the water comes out. So the air comes out of the sponge, gets in the water goes in, so it absorbs all that water. Then when we squeeze, it comes out again, and the sponge bounces back to its original shape. So sponges are quite cool because they can bend and they can fold and they can scrunch into lots of different shapes, and then they go boing and they spring back into their original shape. So in the water, the air comes out, the water goes in. It's really heavy as well once that water's in. And then when we squeeze it, it goes back into the bowl and the water comes out. So that is our sponge. The second one I want to show you is our raincoat I have here. Now I'm sure we've all got a coat, and this coat is, coats are brilliant because they have waterproof material, and it wouldn't be any good if we had non-waterproof coat, because if it rained then it would soak and it would absorb the water, and then the person in the coat would get really wet. So this is that kind of material that's very soft and warm on the inside here, but on the outside it's waterproof, so the rain falls off. A bit like when we were doing our shrugs and our warm-up and the water fell off our raincoats. So that's what happens, it just falls straight off our raincoat here. Okay, this next one, this is one of my favourite ones. This is plasticine. I'm sure you've got loads of this. I don't know about you, but I can never keep other colours from not mixing, but that's fine. I think it makes it a little more interesting. And plasticine's brilliant because it's really malleable. So we can move it and mould it and make any shapes we want. We can tear it quite easily. And then if we're not happy, we can bring it back to another shape if we want to, whatever we want it to look like. So unlike the sponge, this doesn't spring back into its original shape because we're constantly changing it. So if I make a shape, that stays like that shape. It doesn't move unless I move it or make it into a different shape. So that's really fun in dance because we can do loads of different kind of pushing and squeezing and all kinds of movements with plasticine. So we love plasticine. And the final one is paper. I'm sure you've all seen paper before. We use it all the time. We use it to write on. We use it to make aeroplanes and boats. We can do all kinds of things with it. And paper's interesting because it's quite strong. In some ways, it's quite flexible. We can bend it, we can fold it, we can tear it very easily. But what happens if we get it wet? I will show you. So like the sponge, it absorbs, but we can't get rid of the water very easily. So if I put this in, it goes into a bit of a yucky, soggy mush. And if I leave that for a really long time, it would disintegrate. And then look, it loses all of its structure. So I don't think we could write on that because our pens and our ink would just soak right through. And now it's really not strong at all. I can just tear that up in my fingers really, really easily. So it's all mushy. So paper starts out quite strong, and then if you get it wet, it absorbs the water a bit like the sponge and turns into a mush. So it's interesting how materials can change if they get wet. So unlike the coat, if the coat gets wet, that doesn't change, but paper does change and it goes mushy and yucky. So what we are going to do is we're going to take the ideas of those materials and what they do, and we're going to put that into some movement and make up our own dances. So come back with me into the space, and we're going to look at the first one, which was our sponge. And our sponge, we're going to start off in any shape you like, and we are going to have the idea of absorbing the water into us. So imagine that you're surrounded by water and you're going to suck the water in. Good. And then as we squeeze and the sponge gets squeezed, the water is going to come out and it's going to go all over the floor. So we absorb the water in, squeeze the sponge, and the water is going to fall down all over the floor and spread out in a puddle. Good. So we're starting off being the sponge. We're absorbing the water. We're being squeezed, and then the water is going to come out and roll around on the floor and spread out like that. Now, if you're with someone else, a really nice thing to do is one person can be the sponge and the other person can be the water. So the sponge person can absorb that person, give them a gentle squeeze, okay, and then the water person can roll down back on the floor. So you've got the sponge and the water, but if you're on your own like me, we'll have to be both. So we can be the sponge, we suck up the water, absorb it, squeeze, and then we spread out onto the floor like a puddle. Good. The next one we're going to do is we're going to pretend that we are rain and we're falling down off our raincoat. So imagine that your raincoat is here. We have some waterproof material and we are the rain. We're going to rush up to it. We can't be absorbed. It won't let us because it's waterproof material. So we're going to run down it, hit the floor, and we're going to roll away and try and roll back again. Okay, so we're going to run up to the waterproof material, slide down it like raindrops off a raincoat, roll away, and then we can roll back again as well. Okay, the next one is my favourite, is plasticine. So you can make any shape you like, and then you're going to mould and bend and change your shape as if you were made of plasticine. Oh, so you might be dented, you might be stretched. Have a think, have a play around with how you might move as plasticine. What you can do is pause me if you want to have a little play around with this one and then come back. The other thing, if you're with someone else, so one person could be the plasticine and the other person could be the person moving and moulding that plasticine. That's quite nice too. So someone else can be the modeler. They can move and create a sculpture out of plasticine of that other person. So very gently move their bodies to make different shapes. If you're on your own like me, that's fine. We can do it ourselves. So that's our plasticine one. And finally, we're going to be our pieces of paper. So we're going to stretch out like a strong piece of paper, but we get wet. And remember what happened when our paper got wet? It disintegrated and turned to mush in the water because it absorbed that water. So we're a lovely, clean, fresh piece of paper ready to be written or drawn on, and suddenly it starts raining or we get dipped in a bowl of water and we're going to disintegrate quite slowly into a mushy mess on the floor. Good, show me your paper again. So we're going to start up, quite strong, quite solid, but then no, we get wet and we turn into a mushy mess on the floor. Can you go quite slowly? Great. Well done. So we're going to add all of those together. So we're going to go sponge, absorb, squeeze, the water comes out. Good. We're going to try and get to the raincoat, but we fall down. And then we become plasticine models. Bend, shape, dent, stretch, all those lovely words. And finally, we're paper, but we get wet and turn to mush on the floor. So what we are going to do now is try that with music, and that brings the dance alive a little bit. So if you want to, you can pause me and have a practice with that, or if you want to go straight into it with the music with me, you can. Okay. Here we go, keep practicing. Right. Here we go, so we're going to start off as sponges. Good, should we try that again? Here we go, once more. How did you get on? I hope that went well for you. It's a bit of a funny dance, isn't it? Pretending to be all these materials, but by doing it, we really understand how these materials would feel and what they do, especially when they get wet and things like that. So that is fantastic. What we're going to do now is add a transition in between each movement. So a transition could either be a roll or a jump or a hop or a leap, any of those things. You can add them and it makes the dance a little bit longer and it connects all of those shapes and movements together. So you can have a different transition in between each shape or movement, or you can have the same if you like. So I'm just going to add a roll in between each one. If you wanted to add a roll and a turn and a jump and a hop in between each one, that's fine as well. But I'll keep it super simple and then you can decide what you want to do. So if we're going to mark that out, we're going to start with the sponge. We're going to absorb, we squeeze, the water comes out to here. I'm then going to do a roll on my side to here and a little hop around. And then I'm going to be ready for my run to the raincoat, where we run up, we run down, and then I roll again, and I roll again, straight into my plasticine. My plasticine shapes, bendy, stretchy, denty, good. And finally, I'm going to do one more roll here, just on the spot, because I haven't got loads of room, pushing back into the paper shape. And then we turn, fall into a mushy mess. So pause me for a minute, have a think. In between each shape or movement, you can have a roll, a turn, a hop, a leap, whatever you like. I've just done very simple rolls, but you can do what you like. So I'm going to try mine with music. Okay, you can pause me, have a little play around, and then you can pick up here and we can try it with music. Okay, here we go. How did you get on? I hope your transitions went really well. Good. If you want to, you can pause me, keep practicing, keep thinking of different transitions between each one as well. And if you finished, you can come and have a cool down with me if you like. So, come back into the space. You've worked really hard today, well done. What we're going to do is we're going to bend down into a small ball. And we're going to take a deep breath in, like we're being pumped up like a balloon. So we stretch really high, and then we imagine someone's coming in with a pin. They're going to pop us, and we're going to exhale. All that air is going to come out, and we're going to go to the floor. So we go bang, really small. So our balloon is made of rubber, so we can get bigger and expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's not the strongest material. We get popped. Bang. Okay, last one. We get popped. Bang. Good, okay. Can you kneel up on your knees? Bring your arms up really high, clasp them together and do a little stretch to the side. And reaching up tall, stretch to the other side. Well done. Good. Give yourselves a big hug. See if you can touch your fingers behind your back. If you can't, it doesn't matter. This is a good one for stretching out your shoulders and your back. And just look down and stretch out your neck. Very, very gently. Open your arms up wide and cross over so the other arm is on top. And now look down again. Well done. And push back onto your heels. If you can, rock forwards and backwards, our feet in parallel still. And we're just going to do a very gentle roll up. So we bend our knees. Our heads are heavy. They're the last things to come up. Good. Give your shoulders a little shake. Give your legs a little shake. Good. And can you give yourself a clap? I bet you've done a fantastic job today, and I wish I could see your dances. But I will see you next week when we'll be carrying on with more materials. Thank you so much for dancing with me today.